Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you all for joining us here this morning for another Scytec DataXchange webinar. We host these on a monthly basis, covering topics such as features and things that you can do with DataXchange. The topic for this morning's webinar is going to be exploring the differences and benefits between data exchange applications for modern manufacturers. So, there are two data exchange applications. The first being Data Display, which is a browser-based reporting tool that it can be viewed on smartphones, tablets, as well as PCs. And then the Windows desktop version of Data Exchange, which can only be viewed on PCs. So the first that we are going to be discussing is Data Display, which, as I just mentioned, is the browser-based reporting tool side of Data Exchange. Data Display is primarily used for viewing the necessary manufacturing charts and dashboards by the correct personnel and meant to be seamlessly integrated into their daily routine for reporting. So the first thing I'd like to cover is where can you find Data Display? And after I'm done with this little section of the PowerPoint, I'm going to do a quick little kind of tutorial about all the things that I cover for Data Display. So Data Display can be accessed at dx.scytec.com, where you'll find a landing page with a bunch of other different applications on there and how you can easily access each one of them. Data Display can also be accessed via free mobile applications that can be downloaded at the Google Play or Apple Store. We also have the ability to access Data Display from our main Scytec.com website, underneath the Getting Data Display tab at the very bottom of that. And how you log into Data Display is very easy. You enter in the account credentials as well as your login and password. And for those of you that are on-premise customers, don't worry, you get to access Data Display as well. So, what is Data Display exactly? Data Display is a launchpad consisting of all of the necessary charts for manufacturing charts and dashboards, as well as Microsoft Excel reports, real-time dashboards, and user saved charts. And up until recently, we also now included the RTV screens for the real-time viewer, which were historically only found inside of the Windows desktop version. Going forward, Data Exchange main users base, the primary focus for them and main application will be Data Display. And why we are moving in this direction here at Scytec is really for the main reason of commonality, ease of use, and it's a great starting point for those who are new to machine monitoring as well as Data Exchange itself. And Data Display has been seeing a lot of updates in the last few years, taking features that were historically found inside of the Windows desktop version of Data Exchange and adding them into Data Display for streamlining the manufacturing process and making things easy to find and stuff like that, so that it's all in one place. Recently, some of the updates for Data Display have, as I mentioned already, the RTV screens, which you can now find at the bottom of the Data Display launchpad, as well as saved and scheduled charts. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with saved charts, a saved chart is basically, let's say in the morning, you want to access a timeline and you add in all the machinery that you are looking to get the necessary metrics for to populate a chart with by adding the user and shift group, the machinery that you're looking to get, all the statuses that you want to see populated inside of that chart, the specific machine statuses instead of the generalized ones. What a save chart does is it kind of eliminates all of that filtering that you would need to do, so you can just access that chart right on the fly. And then the scheduled portion of that save chart is, let's say that at 8 o'clock every morning you have a production meeting. And at 7:30, you would like to be prepared for that production meeting by going over the last week's metrics, the last day's metrics, or the last month's, quarters, whatever. You can have that saved chart then emailed to you on a recurring basis so that you can access it for those production meetings or Gemba walks and stuff like that. So, who is data display made for? The easy answer to that question is everybody. Data display was designed in mind for accommodating everyone in any shop floor, and it's meant to fit in your daily routine seamlessly. The majority of those who are going to be using data display the most are going to be the ones performing the machine operations out on your shop floor. So the ones standing next to the machines, the ones doing the cuttings. However, upper management can also benefit from data display as well, as those who are not physically in the plant or in a different facility can still monitor what is going on in their production environment by accessing real-time data as well as historical data inside of data display. Next, I'd like to discuss how can data display be viewed. Data display mobile applications can be viewed on smartphone and tablets, computers and laptops, as well as internet browsers. Scytec recommends having a TV out on the shop floor exposing the data using data display as a communications tool. So think about if you were in like a break room and people are eating their lunch, you could have a TV out on there showing what we have in a couple pictures here as a equipment view, which is the real-time status that your machines are in, showing a breakdown of the amount of statuses that have been going on in the requested or in real time. And then next to that, you can see a phone with a downtime summary chart showing you basically the amount of time that a machine has been in a certain downtime. So I'd like to talk about things that you can do inside of data display that you cannot do inside of the Windows desktop version. The main thing that is right off the bat is accessing real-time dashboards such as the real-time list and the equipment view. The one that you see on the left over there is the real-time list, and it is basically a streamlined version of the equipment view there on the right, showing you machines, their current statuses, things like feed rate override, the amount of time that they've been in that status, as well as part numbers and work orders, good and scrap part counts as well, and if the machines are connected to the data display or DataXchange server. So some important data display stuff. As I mentioned already, that your previously created RTV screens from the Windows desktop version are now available in the bottom of the data display launch pad. Note the screens can only be viewed in the browser as of right now inside of data display. You cannot do any modification. You can only do that inside of the Windows desktop application. However, that is a feature that is going to be coming soon in a future update. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and just talk through a few things that I just showed you. So this is the launch pad at dx.scytec.com. As you can see, you can access data display here from this lower left-hand box where if you click on that, you can then enter in your account information. There's also the download links for the data display mobile application that you can access, as well as the operator data interface application as well. And then above in the top right, you can also download the Windows desktop version of DataXchange. And as I mentioned as well, if you go to the Scytec.com website, if you go over to Getting Data Exchange and you scroll down to Data Display, you can access the data display login from our main website. Now, as I was talking earlier, where you can find some of these data display only features, you can find the real-time dashboards right here, consisting of the real-time list and the equipment view, as well as your save chart options down here, right below that. And then underneath that, you will see the RTV screens that you have previously created in the desktop version. So let's go back here to my PowerPoint. Next, I would like to discuss the desktop version of DataXchange. So who is the desktop version of DataXchange for? The desktop version is designed for those who will primarily implement and configure their machine monitoring processes out on their shop floor. This is internally who we call our DataXchange champion. They are going to be the ones doing the majority of the setup and implementation work for getting DataXchange going. So one of the things that you can do inside of the desktop version that you cannot do inside of Data Display is the machine connectivity setup. And right at the opening login screen next to the user tab, you will see the connectivity tab. And Scytec DataXchange has the ability to pull data directly from just about all major machine controls via common protocols. The desktop version is where you will configure how to pull data from things from control brands such as Fanuc, Haas, Cobots, Akuma, legacy machines, and more. Also, you can easily add and remove machines from the desktop version of your Data Exchange application. And it's a very easy process. So if you have licenses that you are going to take from one machine to another, you can easily do that. It's all very do-it-yourself. There's no need to contact anybody at Scytec for any of this. And I would like to quickly talk about the importance of these direct communication protocols, as we have been adding them in some of the more recent data exchange updates. And if you look at this image here, you can see things like Fanuc Focus, Haas, NGC, Next Generation Controls, as well as Akuma Think. So if you have a machine that is not outfitted with a common machine controller like Fanuc Focus, we'll say like a 3031i series controller, we can still connect to your machine via either MT Connect or OPC UA. And if you have a really old machine that does not have an Ethernet port on it, we can use something called a status relay controller, SRC, and you can choose that option down there with both the SRC and the SRCE, and the E in that stands for extended. And then if you're using cobots, we can connect to those via Modbus TCP. So what separates a direct protocol as opposed to OPC UA or MT Connect is the data points that you can collect off of the machines that are outfitted with that. And you can really pull a whole litany of stuff off of there that can be used to populate your manufacturing charts with. And what I have here that we're looking at is a collection of Fanuc Focus related data items that are collected. So if you look there on that left-hand column, you can see what is collected next to that as a description of those. And we can get really like down to some minute details with these direct protocol access, such as program comments, rapid overrides, auto status, alarm information, cycle status, emergency status, just to name a few. So what can you also configure inside of the desktop version of Data Exchange that you can't do inside of Data Display? The first being passworded logins. You can do all that kind of setup there, as well as defining user and user groups. And this allows certain employment levels to access certain features, and you can define security access. So maybe you want upper management to have things that they're only able to access that lower level employment levels aren't allowed to access. You can do that inside of the desktop version of Data Exchange, as well as we have some translation options. So English and Spanish are there for default. However, you can also customize your own translation as well and do all the defining for a different language. You can also do the defining of custom terminology for things like machine statuses with different colors. So for example, with unknown downtimes, we usually use shades of orange, and for unplanned downtimes, we have shades of blue. And then for in cycle / cutting, we have shades of green. But let's say you wanted to change some of that stuff around, you can make them any color you'd like. One of the other things that you can do inside of the configuring portion of the desktop version of Data Exchange is you can do an import of ideal part times by defining what your OEE should be and taking into consideration of what setup times and planned downtime should be, so that this does not negatively affect what your utilization percentage actually is. You can also do some import of work orders, as well as import of part numbers, as well as defining shift group and shift assignments. And you can also split up machinery by physical location or plants. So one of the main things that separates DataXchange from some of the other rudimentary machine monitoring platforms is our notification feature set that you can do a lot of configuration and really make DataXchange work for what you need to have sent to you. So via text, email, and Microsoft Teams notifications, you can do customization about what threshold needs to be crossed for your machinery for an instant notification of a shop floor activity. And that'll send you a customized alert with those 3 that I just mentioned. So let's say that your machine has been in an X downtime, and we'll just go ahead with an unknown downtime. And if you look over on that image there on the right, we'll go ahead and use that as an example for, let's say you have a Tsugami machine that has been in an unknown downtime for 60 minutes, and you want after that 61st minute to get a notification that that machine has been in an unknown downtime for too long. Once that threshold is crossed, you will then get a notification sent to you in one of those 3 of either Microsoft Teams, email, text, or notifications. And it's not limited to this example either. You can have unlimited notifications. The desktop version also comes pre-packaged with alerts that cover most of the alerts that you could probably want. And then we also have a team of professionals here at Scytec that can go through and help you out with endless configuring of what you would like to have in terms of notification. And one thing that really also sets sort of Scytec out apart from other rudimentary and other machine monitoring platforms is that we actually do have our own dedicated Microsoft Teams connector for these notifications. So other things that you can do in the desktop version of DataXchange that you cannot do inside of Data Display is you can configure the views inside of the real-time viewer. So as I mentioned, we are going to be implementing this into Data Display, but for right now, this is a feature that is only inside of the desktop version. And as well as, Data Display, you can also access your manufacturing charts and get Excel reports for downtimes, average operation times, alarms, and more. So one thing I'd like to cover here real quick, if you have any questions about anything related to DataXchange, we do have a help website that can be accessed at dxhelp.scytec.com. And you can see that top little ribbon bar up there with the little spyglass. You can type something in there and that'll populate with FAQs, articles, as well as videos. So from here, what I would like to do is I would like to open the floor up to anybody that has any questions. I'm going to kind of wait for about 5 minutes so you guys can send your questions in. And we have our product specialist, Chris Hamlin, here as well with us. And he and I will be answering any questions that you guys may or may not have. So feel free to input those in right now to the little Zoho HUD area where you can do that, and I will be answering them as they come in. Okay, so the first question that we have right now is, what does Data Display cost? Data Display actually does not cost anything. Data Display is included with your subscription to DataXchange, and it and the desktop are included with your, the desktop version are included with your Scytec monthly subscription or annual if you're on one of those or on premise. So another user has asked, what operating systems does Data Display support? Data Display can be accessed on anything that is with an operating system that includes either Android or iOS. If you guys have any more questions, I can take those as is. It looks like we have a final one. And does the rotating function inside of the RTV and Data Display work like the desktop version? We are interested in this for our shop floor TV. And then yes, so the answer to the question, yes, the screen rotation configuration function inside of Data Display works exactly the same as the Windows desktop version. So I'll give it another couple minutes. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to input those into the Q&A section of the little Zoho HUD there. Okay, well, it doesn't look like we've had any more questions. Thank you all for joining us here today for another Scytec DataXchange webinar. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to our support or consult the Scytec University help website. And thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.